Here's a crazy one coming out of Greeley. You got Martinez, Anthony Martinez. He's going to stab and kill his roommate. He's 38 years old. Now, is it self-defense? Is it justified in any way, shape, or form? It seems like the way that this article is written, he appeared before the Weld Judge Vicente Vigil Wednesday afternoon to set a court appearance for 1:30 p.m. March 9th. The preliminary and proof evidence hearing is expected to take the full afternoon and bring multiple witnesses from the case to the stand. In late June, Martinez was formally charged with first-degree murder after he was arrested on suspicion of killing his 50-year-old roommate, Shannon Ziel. Just after 1 a.m., June 18th, Greeley police responded to a report of a suspicious death. 2900 block of C Street. Ziel's mother reported she went to check on Ziel after his roommate Martinez called to tell her that he had suspicions that her son was dead. So that's weird as fuck, right? So you got Anthony Martinez who says, hey, I think your son might be dead. So she goes to the house and, thinking it's weird, calls the police. The police show up. They find Ziel dead on the bathroom floor of his apartment. The victim suffered multiple stab wounds, including a penetrating wound to the face and then a contusion to his throat. During the police investigation, they said that he confessed to the murder, but was he just saying, he defended himself? Was he explaining how he defended himself? You're innocent till proven guilty, but this doesn't look good, right? A nearby apartment tenant reported hearing screaming and yelling coming from their apartment around 8 p.m. the day before Ziel was found dead. And I mean, look at him. He looks like a notorious character, right? Even in this picture, he looks crazy. So he's been in and out of jail. He had his probation revoked, reinstated for 2 years in October. The records show in 2014 he pleaded guilty to felony drug possession and got an 18-month prison sentence. So yeah, he stabbed Shannon, Ziel to death. And the only way that could possibly, be okay is if the person if they came after him. And then it's just them two that's inside the apartment. So how can you tell, one way or another? So the criminal procedure in Colorado there's a 10-step criminal procedure. If you're charged with a felony, there's 10 steps. Number 1 is the arrest. Number 2, bail bond. Hearing. 3 is the advisement of charges. 4 is a preliminary hearing. 5 is disposition. 6 is the arraignment. 7 is the motions hearing. 8 is the pre-trial readiness conference. 9 is the jury trial. And 10 is sentencing. So that's the 10-step process. So he's already been arrested, bailed, probably denied, advisement of charges. I'm sure he's already been told he's going to have a preliminary hearing coming up in March. A preliminary hearing, the 4th step, probably the first real step, right? But March 9th, 1:30 p.m., March 9th, he's going to be before the Weld County Judge Vicente Vigil. And it's a preliminary and proof evident hearing. So the 4th step, right, the first real step, is going to happen over, nearly a year, nearly 9 months. June 2021 is when he had stabbed his roommate to death, when Anthony Martinez stabbed Shannon Ziel to death. He did that in June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. 9 months later, we're on step 4. It's just incredible that if you do the worst of the worst, you're guaranteed to get all these steps. You're guaranteed to get all those steps. 9 months later, that's not a speedy trial. That's not a speedy nothing. That's a, what the hell took so goddamn long? And I guess the last thing I'll mention about this is that preliminary hearing thing is even more peculiar, because if you're in custody, you get a preliminary hearing. If you're in custody, you get a preliminary hearing. If you stab your roommate to death, you'll get a preliminary hearing. But if it's like a class 6 felony, then they say you're not entitled to a preliminary hearing unless there's a minimum sentence. So you have to do a major sex crime, you have to do a major violent crime, or you have to be in custody if you have a class 4, 5, or 6 felony charge in order to get a preliminary hearing, unless you have a mandatory sentencing. All the felonies in Colorado have a mandatory sentencing, so therefore all felony charges are guaranteed to a preliminary hearing. The damn Constitution says we have a right to a grand jury indictment. Do we not? So, arrest, bail bond hearing, advisement of charges, preliminary hearing, disposition, arraignment, motions hearing, pretrial readiness conference, jury trial, sentencing. There's 10 steps for each and every person. It's crazy. It took 9 months. He's going to get his preliminary hearing. Some people don't even get a preliminary hearing. But he's going to get one. Why? Because he stabbed his roommate to death. So that's a terrible crime. A lot of his, it's mandatory sentencing. So he's guaranteed to a preliminary hearing. He's in custody, right? So he checks several of the boxes. But the worst of the worst get a guaranteed criminal procedure, but the, smaller ones, here's class 6 felonies. Here are the, the classes that's, I'm not even going to actually say that because it's not true. They all have minimum, whatever, so, sentencing. But, no illegal identification documents, no compensation for past official behavior. So, you have a illegal ID. You got an illegal ID on you. Well, that's a felony, right? You'll be fucked for life. You'll get a felony on your, but you won't get a preliminary hearing. But you had a fake ID. Well, hell, that's a goddamn felony, and you should pay for it for life. Said the piece of shit that was pretending to be a cop. Wait, you're not even a cop? That's hypocrisy. Fuck a hypocrite and fuck a liar. Fuck a ignorant, lying, hypocrite, superstitious, tyrannical son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch.